Hello everyone, in this video I have a mixed media scrapbook process to share with you with the Thompson's Craft Supplies design team. I am using February's Vintage Romance kit, and for this layout I very much went out of my comfort zone when it comes to colour palette. Usually I'm very much a cool colour person. I like blues and greens, I like pastels. Occasionally I like to go bright and use rainbows, but very rarely do I go for warm tones, reds and oranges and browns, and that's exactly what I'm doing for this layout. So I started off just prepping my page with a little bit of clear gesso, and then I'm putting some heavy gesso onto this chipboard piece that comes in the kit. It just screamed at me, this piece, to use it for the centre of a scrapbook layout and plop a photo in the middle. I'm also putting some more heavy gesso straight down onto the page itself, just knowing that it was going to get covered up with lots of ink and stuff like that, and having some of it go over where there's clear gesso and some of it going over where there's heavy gesso. It will create some different tones and things like that. The paper is the Prima paper that comes in this kit, and I've totally forgotten the collection or name of the paper, but it will be in my kit share video, which I will link in the description box. So as this kit is called Vintage Romance, I thought it only appropriate to scrapbook a picture of my true love, which is my cat Conan. So I was deciding between two photos, but I decided on this one because I think the other one was quite, even though they're both outdoor daylight ones, one was quite dark in tone and the one I decided to use is bright, and I thought it would stand out really nicely against all the colours I'm going to use. And I just sort of roughly traced around that circle shape to cut my photo, again roughly in the shape I needed it. So for my background colour I'm using Heidi Swapp Colour Shine in, I wrote it down, Peach, which unfortunately I won't be able to link because it's impossible to find links to Heidi Swapp Colour Shine anymore. But I did a mix of just spraying it on and then taking some packaging and just smooshing it down, and then spraying some more on and let it drip both horizontally and vertically across the page, like sprayed a bit more, let it drip some more, etc, etc. I'm going to colour my chipboard piece here with the beautiful Prima Metallics, probably not how you say it, Prima paint that comes in the kit. It is in the colour Steampunk Copper. Now you might later on wonder why I coloured this first when I'm going to do some more colouring, but it will make sense later as to why I coloured it at this stage. But yes, I'm just, as I said, just straight painting it on there. Once I'd done one layer, I did go back over other bits just with like a heavier amount of paint on my brush, just to kind of have brighter bits and more shinier bits and so on and so forth. With the ink in the background dry, I'm taking this stencil, which is AB Studio, and some embellishment mousse in Persian red, and just stenciling on this really lovely flourishy, leafy, whatever pattern there. And I'm going to do that quite a few times, 4, 5 maybe times. Embellishment mousse is interesting because different colours tend to behave in different ways, and I find the warmer colours like this Persian red and the other one I use later in this video, they become thinner than the other ones. Now, if you haven't used embellishment mousse, you've no idea what I'm talking about, but sometimes when you stencil it on, it's really thick, and then with this one it went really, really thin, so it was quite hard actually to stencil, so it took me a little bit longer than usual, but obviously I've cut that out because that would be boring for you to watch. So with that all down, I'm just figuring out, like holding my chipboard piece up there, just figuring out if I needed a little bit more, and I did. So just 2 more little pieces I think I'm going to put down there. I'm not too worried about it getting smushed in the middle section because I know it's all going to get covered up anyways. It's just the stencil stuff at the top of the bottom that I'm really worried about, because that's what's going to get seen. Plop in my photo there, down there with some 3D gloss gel. Everything in this layout gets stuck down with 3D gloss gel, so hopefully I won't repeat myself on that. And then putting the chipboard piece down on top of the photo. I just want to acknowledge, by the way, my weird colour scheme going on in my sleeves, the teal and pink. It's just, I have this like a pink fluffy hoodie for bedtime, you know, it's like a pajama hoodie, but it was really, really cold that day and all my big hoodies were in the wash, so I had to put my pink fluffy hoodie on over like the clothes I was already wearing, and I just didn't care because no one was going to see me. But then I realised I'm videoing and I didn't want you all to think that I go out and about dressed in such strange colour mixes, so anyways, just thought I'd acknowledge that fact. I've put down some more chipboard pieces, all from the kit, and then I am splodging on bits of gloss gel in and around all those pieces. And what I'm going to do with those is take some art stones and pour those over those splodgy bits there. These are not the Prima art stones, these are the Imagination Crafts Artsy stones in the size medium. I believe you can still get these from Thompson's Craft. I will link them if you can. And you may think I'm pouring like loads and loads on, which I am, but only a certain amount of them are going to stick. It's kind of like when you do something like this with glitter, you pour loads on, or like with embossing powder or something, you pour loads on and then you pour the rest off when it's dry, which is exactly what I'm doing there. But I did leave that overnight to dry, hence why I have a different colour sleeve going on now. So yeah, I left it overnight to dry. Best thing I've found to do with things like this, if you use the heat tool, sometimes it goes a bit weird and gloopy, and it's just better to let it happen naturally. So yeah, I'm just let those excess stones come off, collected them up, put them back in the jar, and then going over everything apart from my main frame, so just these chipboard pieces and the artsy stones, with a load of gesso so that I've got my base, as it were, to paint those as well. Funny thing with mixed media layouts like this, like really heavy mixed media layouts, is there's always stages like this, and for me it was the stage just before where I just put the art stones down, where I just thought, oh, I've messed this up, it looks awful, but they always come together at the end. You have to have a lot of ugly stages before you can have a pretty stage at the end. So like, if you're doing something like this, don't get disheartened like early on thinking this looks horrific, because as I said, it nearly always comes together at the end. So yes, putting that gesso on, and then I'm taking the same paint I painted the chipboard frame with and painting all the artsy stones and chipboard feathers and leaves and stuff with that. Here I can kind of explain why I painted the frame first, because obviously when I was doing that layer of gesso on the art stones and stuff, I did get little bits of it onto that frame, but had I waited to do the copper painting, as it were, on the frame, then I would risk getting some on my photo. So just having to fill in a couple of bits where I accidentally got gesso on was much better than having to really carefully do it to not get it on my photo. So that was my reason for doing that. Here you can see some of where I'm painting is going a weird creamy colour. It's because the gesso wasn't quite as dry as I thought it was, but I cover it up, so it's okay. I have left out all the drying with the heat tool in this video because it's just not very interesting for you guys to watch. Next, I am taking the Prima Metallics wax that comes in this kit. There are two colours that you can get at random. I got the aged brass, and I think the other one, it's like a rose gold or something like that. But I'm just dabbing that on with my finger, mostly around the chipboard frame, just to sort of highlight that, make it stand out more against those artsy stones and other chipboard pieces. Also, once I've done that with the aged brass, I'm going to take some Inca Gold in rose quartz. Louise sent this to me a while back, and it's only the second time I've been able to use it, or had the occasion to use it. Inca Gold is kind of like, if you haven't used it, I find it's like somewhere between a proper wax, and an embellishment mousse. It's like a strange, you can use it either way, you know, as it were. But anyway, I'm just using it as a wax there and just highlighting some areas on the feathers. And then I'm taking embellishment mousse in orange blush and highlighting more areas, mostly on the art stones with that. And again, I'm treating that as a wax and just rubbing it on with my finger and highlighting all the little round bits of the stones. And it causes, and with all those different waxes on there, we've got like lots of color layers and lots of interesting things going on and lots of things to look at, so that's quite fun. Here I am going to add some other embellishments. So in the kit there's two 12 by 12 papers, which are fussy cuttable if you want to. I have fussy cut one and a bit of them. I haven't quite completed the second one, but I'm just adding some bits from there. So I've got the clock piece and some floral pieces, and I think I'm going to add some feathers as well. I am going around those and just adding a little bit of Distress Oxide in Vintage Photo around them, just to sort of tie them in to the whole thing with that whole sort of browny coppery feel I've got going on. Some of them I had to prop up as well on just little foam squares, because where the artsy stones had sort of got a bit unruly, shall we say, things were on slightly different levels, so that's what I did with those. And also the flourishy bits either side of the frame as well had come up. Again, that was because of unruly art stones, so I'm going to have to stick those back down, and that's partially why I added these these fussy cut pieces underneath those, because then it would have something to stick to. So I'm just finishing off adding a couple of feathers sticking out there. I just thought I wasn't going to add those, but once I'd done everything else, I was like, no, we need something else here. So yes, just adding some more gloss gel underneath those flourishy bits of the frame so they can stick to those paper embellishments that I've stuck under there. And then I whapped something very heavy on top of that. There we go. And left it for a good 4 or 5 hours to dry completely. And then it was nice and in place, and I could just finish off my layout with some more embellishments and stuff. So I'm just picking through some little word titles here. These were a gift that somebody kindly gave me. I went with lovely because I just thought that was the best one that I had that suited the layout. I'm colouring that with, I've gone back to the embellishment mousse in Persian red, and again treating it as a wax and just rubbing it on with my finger. And then I brought back the Prima brass wax just to add more colour dimension to that little title thing I've got going on there. Next, I'm going to add some florals. I'm not using the florals from the kit because I have other cunning plans for those. I'm just using some from my stash, which were also a gift from the same lovely person who gave me those wooden little chipboard titles as well. And I've just gone with the reds and corally colour ones. And these little leaves I'm adding as well are from last month's kit. Actually, I had those left over. But when I got them all in place, but then I was just, they look wrong. They're too bright against the background. So I'm going back and just sort of smooshing my blending tool that's got some vintage photo on them just to, you know, tone them down just a little bit. And that worked so much better. Like the smallest little thing can make such a difference. And yeah, as I said, that just looks so much better. And then again, all of those are just getting splooshed on with a big chunk, little big sploosh of 3D gloss gel behind them. And then putting my little title in place there, knocking it off and putting it back on again. And then, I don't know if I waited very long for those to dry, just a little bit. The gloss gel works better with things like fabrics and paper flowers and stuff than it does. Well, not works better, it dries quicker with those things rather than with chipboard. But I'm taking my wax out again and highlighting some more areas such as the center of the flowers and just some of the petals and stuff. It just added that really nice shininess, tied everything in together. I'm also going to add it onto where I'd done that stenciling right at the beginning of the video, just using the wax to highlight some of that stenciling as well, and that added a really nice effect as well. So from here on, it's basically just me going splatter and Nouveau drop crazy, as I always do. I'm going to use Lindy's Starburst spray in Cowabunga Copper and my old favourite Distress Spray Stain in Picket Fence. And when I do a layout like this, I might go a bit overboard with the splattering, but it's when you can get away with doing lots of it, so it makes me really happy. I've also completely forgotten I did add a couple of little phrases from the Tim Holtz clipping stickers. I don't know if I cut that out, if I wasn't paying enough attention, but I put little bits of Distress Oxide around the edges of those as well before I stuck them down. And here come the Nouveau drops. I am using Copper Penny and Autumn Red. Yes, Autumn Red, looking at my list there. And again, I am putting those all over the place. I'm kind of in this, there's kind of like a splatter coming out of the main embellishment area, but I'm also putting some in and on those embellishments as well, because I think if they were only on the outside of it, it would look a bit quote unquote unnatural, and having them sort of on it as well as around it just works and makes it look more natural. Not that that's the right word to use, but you know what I mean. So yes, there's the Autumn Red going on there all over the place. And then I think I added a couple more of the Copper Penny because they just felt like they were needed in certain places. And with that, there you go, last little drop going on there. I believe this layout is done. So there we go, something a bit different from me, especially when it comes to colour. It was fun. I enjoyed using different colours. So, you know, if you're like me and you tend to stick to one colour palette, it is quite fun and enjoyable sometimes to go with something else. Anyways, down in the description box will be links to where you can buy this kit from, as well as all sorts of the other bits and pieces that I used. Even if you're not interested in the links, you're just interested in what products and what colour names they are, all that information will be down there. One thing I always forget to say in my Thompson's Craft videos is that there is always a corresponding blog post from me on the Thompson's Craft Supplies blog. So if you want to see more pictures and maybe read more information or anything, then just head there. The link is down in the description box. It always is. And you can also see other projects from the other members of the design team and stuff like that. So yeah, just a little plug there because I always forget to say it. Anyways, I have blabbed on quite enough and it's very much time for me to go. So I will just say thank you so much for watching, and please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Kit, links, all those things, description box, you know the drill. I'm going. Right, yes. Thanks again. Bye-bye.